Brother's tantrums ruined my birthdays and led to community backlash, teaching my parents a harsh lesson in consequences. I'm 20 male, and has happened when I was 14. I have a brother that's about 6 years younger than me. And he was extra coddled by my parents for having been diagnosed with high-functioning autism when he was 4. But other than that, he seems very normal, just unbelievably spoiled. And he used it to get his way a lot. And by a lot I mean nearly all the time. Anything I had, he also had to have. So that meant we had doubles of almost everything that wasn't shared items. And anything he had that I didn't, he'd rub in my face any way he could. When I was 11 I begged my parents for a 3DS for my 12th birthday. I got one, but then was told to lend it to my brother whenever he wanted it, or else I'd have it taken away. Which it was, a lot. When my aunt found out after seeing my parents forcibly take my 3DS out of my hands to give to my brother on one of her visits, she let loose on them for such blatant favoritism. They returned my 3DS immediately, then blamed me for the situation after my aunt left. But they didn't make me give it to my brother again. Instead my parents went out a few days later and bought another 3DS as a surprise gift for my brother. On several of mine and other people's birthdays my brother made a huge fuss because the party wasn't all about him, even going so far as to outright state that he was upset because he wasn't getting any gifts or getting to blow out the candles on the cake. My parents learned the hard way that they couldn't enable my brother the way they'd have liked at those parties. And were actually kicked out of a few for trying. And because of that, other kids at his school stopped inviting him to birthday parties altogether. For me, my birthdays were some of the only days I had that I got to have about me because otherwise my parents forced my life to revolve around my little brother. And the year prior to when this story took place, my parents ended up paying more attention to him the entire time of my 13th birthday. And even asked me if I'd let my brother blow out my candles for me because he was upset and pouting. I refused it because I wanted to blow out my own candles. They called me a spoiled brat at first, till my aunt intervened and chastised them on their favoritism yet again. And stated how much she had noticed how my brother gets nearly everything between the two of us just because he's autistic. My parents got no support from anyone else there other than my brother, who was still crying because he wasn't getting to blow out my candles. And because he didn't get his way, he tried to outright spit on my cake out of spite, but my awesome aunt thankfully blocked him before he got the chance. Then scolded him till he ran to my mom in tears. My parents took a lot of heat from the other adults there, and then promised to never ask me to let my brother blow out my candles again. But they pretty much just went through the motions for rest of the party. My aunt pretty much took over coordinating everything from that point. The following year, a couple of weeks before my birthday, my parents sat me down and told me they were still gonna get me some gifts and a small cake, but my birthday party was effectively cancelled to avoid my brother having another meltdown. I told them I couldn't believe they were doing this to me, and they just seemed to shrug it off without a care. So at school over the next week I told my friends, my teachers, and even my school counselor. All of them were appalled by my parents' lack of consideration or empathy. The vice principal even found out and consoled me. And all of this got back to my parents through social media. My parents ended up grounding and gaslighting me for telling so many people. But that didn't stop me from still telling everyone at school that I was grounded for just being upset my birthday was cancelled for no good reason. I guess that made it a lot worse because several of my parents' own friends along with parents to other kids in my school called them up or sent them FB messages basically saying what the hell is wrong with you. And suddenly I was ungrounded. I didn't get an apology either. My dad just walked into my room with his arms crossed, told me my grounding was over early, and then walked out. That was it. I thought my party was still cancelled because nobody said anything about it, and my brother thought it hilarious and rubbed it in my face that I wasn't going to get to celebrate. But by the end of the 2 weeks my parents held a surprise party for me at my favorite restaurant. And then started claiming that was their intent all along. I knew it wasn't. From what I'd seen, everyone was incredibly unhappy with them for what they did. And it showed with any interactions family members had with my parents, so they ended up doing the surprise party to try and save what little of their reputations they had left. But I'm pretty sure they had to pay through the nose that day to just accommodate me. I got dinner with all my friends at my favorite restaurant that had a small arcade. And even got the PS4 game system I'd been jonesing for at the time. I could tell it was all pretty much planned and bought last minute, because my dad had a look about him that my aunt comically described as looking like a moth had flown out of his wallet. My brother of course made a huge fuss that I got that surprise party. But with so many of my friends and their parents there, my mom and dad finally put their feet down on my brother to stop his tantrum when he wanted to push my cake off the table. My brother ended up getting a timeout for the first time since he was a toddler, and my mom had to stay with him to make sure he didn't do anything crazy. And he did try several times to run to the cake or stack of presents. Who knows what he would have done were it not for the fact at least one adult was always on guard. Even my dad stood guard to keep him away. My mom ended up having to remove my brother and herself from the party entirely and took my little bro to a McDonald's nearby so he could have fun in their play area. And I heard later she spent at least an hour trying to get him to come out of the playplace tube structure, and he only did so because he had to use the bathroom, then tried to run right back in again. My parents never tried to cancel my birthday again while still I lived with them. Though they never again tried as hard or spent as much. For the remaining 4 years I was under their roof, my birthday parties consisted of a local pizza parlor, a cake without even my name written on it, and never again anything as expensive as a new gaming system. I don't mean to sound spoiled, but I was a bit disappointed I never got a cake with my name on it again. My aunt called my parents out on that each year, and each year they claimed they forgot to get the cake decorated. I'm pretty sure that the reason my name was never written on another cake was because my brother always refused to eat pieces of cake that had writing of someone else's name on it at any party. And they couldn't put his name on any of my cakes, or it would have looked very bad for them. But the fact that I still got a day that was just about me at all and not my brother was still fantastic in my book. Especially because just about everything else revolved around him. During each of my remaining birthday parties while still living at home, my brother made a fuss, and my mom took him somewhere else to calm him down. I was still required to share my PS4 with my brother. But it was still mine. And I took it with me when I moved out at 18. Little bro did not like that, and had a huge fit till my parents went out and bought another PS4 for him. When I moved out they finally had to deal with how they'd raised my brother so spoiled because I wasn't there to help them with him anymore. On his recent 14th birthday he went mental on our parents for not getting him a PS5. He is now currently grounded for I don't know how long after causing hundreds or maybe even thousands in collateral damage during his rampage. He picked up a chair and just started destroying anything that was in front of him with it. And my parents just looked mentally checked out when I saw them last. My aunt has also told me they confided in her that they wish they could send my brother to military or boarding school in the future because they can't handle the monster they created anymore. But there's no way they can afford that. I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it ironically funny. Edit, holy cow this blew up. I'd like to thank everyone who's commented and given me awards. It really means a lot to me. Thank you all so much. For those who read my previous post about how my parents tried to cancel my 14th birthday, they knew very well what my brother was like during birthday parties that weren't his own. And they tried to enable his behavior in any way they could just because he's high-functioning autistic. Well, that rampant spoiling didn't go well with people outside of the family. Like it all. This happened I think when my brother was around 6 to 7 years old. A neighbor boy down the street was having his birthday party. And my brother got invited because they were sort of friends. But probably because they knew my parents would bring a gift. And they did. Don't remember what it was though, nor do I really care. My parents dragged me along to this party, even though I'd have rather stayed home and played video games. I was bored and sitting down almost the entire time. So I got to witness pretty much the whole situation. It started when my brother was caught picking up gifts off the table and shaking them. The mother of the birthday boy told him to stop, and my parents tried to defend my brother and say he was harmless. But the lady knew what my brother was really like and had my parents move him away from the presents. There were some games that the kids were playing. Don't remember what they were. But I do remember my brother tried to be the center of attention as much as possible. With each game the birthday boy got first pick/turn on them all because it was his birthday. But my brother freaked out because he didn't get to be first. And my parents did ask the birthday boy's mother if my brother could get the first pick/turns. And the lady not only refused, but told my parents to get my brother under control or we'd all be asked to leave. Then came time for the cake. The mother lit the candles for the birthday boy and the adults started singing the happy birthday song. They only got as far as singing the birthday boy's name in the song before my brother burst into a tantrum at the table. He grabbed the side of the table and started trying to violently shake it. My parents had to hold my brother back for a moment. And then I saw my mother go up and talk to the mother of the birthday boy again about something. And the poor lady looked positively disgusted. And I learned later that she'd asked her to let my brother blow out the candles first and then they could redo it. The lady told my mother that it would be best if we left, and then they went back to trying to redo the birthday song. Well, my brother couldn't take it and ran to the table and shoved the whole cake right at the birthday boy. I mean, he used his arm to literally clothesline the cake and heave it right into that poor kid's face. The whole room was silent for a few seconds. And then a bunch of the kids started laughing. Then the birthday boy started crying. And the adults were all mortified. Except for my parents. My mother just started hugging my brother tightly and acting like a Karen by saying this could have been prevented if they'd just let my brother blow out the candles first. The mother of the birthday boy was cleaning up chocolate cake off her son and screamed at my parents to get out. The other kids there started crying because it had finally hit them that now there was no cake. My mother started dragging my brother out, but he broke free of her and then pushed over the table with all the presents on it. I grabbed him and held him in a headlock till my parents grabbed him. I apologized profusely to the mother of the birthday boy and said I wasn't on my parents' side in the matter. Yeah, that's right. Little 12-year-old me had to apologize for my own parents. My dad yelled to me to get moving or I could walk home. I said I'd walk home. It was literally a quarter mile down the street. I stayed and helped clean up the mess my brother made. The lady thanked me and said that I was a good egg. But my brother was just rotten. Someone went out and got another cake while the birthday boy had to take a shower because he was covered in cake. All of the mess was cleaned up, and they redid the birthday song. After the party was over, the mother of the birthday boy wrote something out on a piece of paper. It was a handwritten invoice to my parents for the destroyed cake, along with a written threat to call police as someone there with a camera caught everything. I handed the invoice to my parents and they really didn't look happy when they read it. Then they gave me the cash and told me to take it back to the lady. So I did. And that was pretty much it. Neither that kid, or his family ever associated with my brother or my parents ever again. But the messed up thing is that at another birthday party months later, the same situation nearly repeated entirely. My mother asked the parents to let my brother blow out the candles first. Gave BS excuses as to why. And they outright refused, and my mother acted like a total Karen. My brother tried to knock down the cake. I was on guard and intercepted him. Then we were told to leave. It was after that my brother was no longer invited to birthday parties that were not relatives. And then on my next birthday in that same year when I turned 13, my parents tried to get me to let my brother blow out my candles, and my aunt tore into them for that. It was then I guess that my parents decided that if I couldn't share, then next year I shouldn't have a party at all. And any previous readers know how that turned out. When I was 17, I bought a used minibike and used it to get to and from a part-time job. Those who've read my previous posts know what my little brother is like. The boy my parents extra coddled because he was diagnosed as high-functioning autistic, and anything I had, my brother had to have too. And if I refused to give it, my parents generally took it. At least until the behavior was exposed to the public when my parents tried to cancel my 14th birthday. After that my parents stopped forcing me to give my stuff to my brother whenever he wanted it. And that led to some extra huge tantrums from him. My brother would look for things around the house to throw to the floor and break. Usually dishes. My parents actually stocked up on plates from second-hand stores because of that. When I got the minibike, my brother was upset I would never let him ride it. But he's destructive with all his stuff. Every time he broke his BMX, I'm the one who had to fix it. Change a flat, new pedals, new tire, new handlebars, new brake line, etc. He's got a stunt BMX that he begged for. And my parents spent hundreds on it. But as much as he loves it, he never fixes it himself or properly takes care of it, just calls me over begging me to fix it. My parents got him the parts and have the tools, but he never bothers to do anything more than pump up a tire. And even then he usually tries to get someone to do it for him. He's also very careless in where he leaves the bike. He left it in a neighbor's driveway and its handlebars got run over by the neighbor's van. He somehow destroyed the pedals and a new pair had to be put on. He broke the rear brake line while having a tantrum too. The tire was understandable though since those were out. But it wasn't hard to swap it, and I shouldn't have had to come over on a Saturday to do it when my brother is perfectly capable of doing it himself. So damn right I'm not letting him take my minibike on a joyride. Especially with gas prices being so high these days. The minibike gets like 60 miles per gallon. So what that it only goes 40 miles per hour. I only have a 5-mile commute anyway. About a month before my brother's 14th birthday, my parents called me begging me to come over and fix the BMX again. Little bro had worn the rear tire down to its threads. I was annoyed, but I came over anyway because they offered to pay me. I swapped the tire, and sat down for a bottled water because it was like 100 degrees that day. My brother watched me work on the bike till I was done. His helmet was on, so I figured he was just waiting to go riding on his bike. But the moment my back was turned I heard my minibike start up outside and then take off. Little bro took off like a rocket down the street on it before I could get out of the garage. I freaked out, but my parents tried to play it off. Though when I didn't placate them, they said they'd get my minibike back right away. But for them that was more like just waiting till my brother came back with it. I was annoyed, and I wanted to call the police, but I'm not sure if they'd call it a domestic issue or not. My brother finally came back an hour later. He'd somehow not crashed. But the moment he saw me, he took off again. He drove the bike till it ran out of gas and my parents had to go get him. To say I was furious was an understatement. But my parents basically rolled their eyes, handed me $40 and claimed it wouldn't happen again. I said it better not, or I'd call the cops next time. Not sure if it'd help, but they seemed to take my warning. I had to push my minibike to the nearest gas station to fill up before I could go home. Before I left I told my parents that if my brother wants a minibike so bad, then they should get him one. But then they pulled a 180 and said he wasn't ready to have one because it's a big responsibility, and that it was too dangerous because it's practically a motorcycle. I mean really? They just let him steal mine for like 2 hours to go joyriding to God knows where, and they don't want to get him one themselves? Whatever. I'm used to their hypocrisy by now. The last time I went to my parents' house, my brother was massively grounded and in his room for his birthday rampage I mentioned in my first post. But just to be sure, I pulled the spark plug wire off my bike before I entered the house. My brother was glaring at me from his window when I left. I just gave him a goofy wave and drove off. Well, a while ago someone here commented the idea that my parents should sell a bunch of my brother's stuff. So I talked to my parents about how they could probably recoup some of their losses from the birthday rampage by selling a lot of my brother's stuff. I was surprised by how readily they agreed it was a good idea. I mean, it was like a light bulb moment for them. Then over the weekend they had a big garage sale. They sold my brother's bike, his video game systems, everything. I went to help out with the sale and could hear my brother crying in his room. All of the video game systems he had were sold. And I mean there was a lot of them. He had a GameCube, a Wii, a 3DS, a Switch, PS2, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and a ton of games for them all. And they sold all of them. I was pretty tempted to buy something from the sale myself, but I knew if my brother were to be made aware that I had something he used to own, who knows what he might do. So I held back. The bike alone went for $30. They also sold his TV, his RC cars, his drone, and pretty much anything else electronic he owned. They are in the process of selling his gaming PC online now as well. There's a cheap laptop too. But it was mainly used for school, and he was denied access to it for anything else. My parents told me that my brother's room had been stripped of everything but the essentials. While I was visiting during the sale, my brother walked out of his room once, saw me, and then ran back into his room crying loudly. I know fake crying from him when I hear it. And it was as fake as it gets. My parents know this too, and have not fallen for his game. I asked them if he was going to be sent to therapy. And they said they really have no choice but to that. And they fully admitted this was all their fault for enabling him for so long. I could have rubbed it in their faces. But I think the look they saw on my face was enough that they understood. For the past several years they've been in progressively worse and worse denial about their bad parenting. Friends and family have been telling them for a long time now that they went way too far spoiling my brother. And that not only would it come back on them one day, but it'd also mean that my brother may be incapable of functioning as an adult. And if that's the case, he'd expect someone to provide for his every need forever. And I would not become his caretaker when they become too old. My brother hadn't shown much improvement over the next few weeks. He was still being a brat, fake crying, getting into more trouble, and even stole another kid's cell phone at school. He was caught playing on it in his closet, and my parents had to return it to the school to find out who it belonged to. Last week I had an idea and suggested a family intervention. My parents were hesitant when I brought it up. But they reluctantly agreed to it. I'm sure their hesitation was because an intervention would put them on the spot along with my brother. Then on the next possible day all close family and some friends could gather at my parents' house. We formed a circle of chairs in the living room, initially without my brother in the room. My aunt spoke first. And oh boy did she let them have it. She'd written an entire speech that we all silently listened to. My parents tried to interject from time to time, but were silenced. When it came to be my turn to speak, I also read a speech I composed. Basically repeating everything I've told on Reddit thus far, and plenty more. My grandparents went next, and it just sort of followed down the line from there. My mother was in tears, and my father just held her. They both apologized to me heavily, and said they were terrible parents. And that they ruined my childhood. I'll never get that back. My aunt loudly stated that it should not have come to this for them to realize their own hypocrisy. And from now on they needed to do better, not only for my sake, but especially for the sake of my brother so he can grow up normal. My brother was brought into the room next, and he was seated away from my parents because my mother would have an urge to coddle him when he was upset. It didn't take long for the family to lay into my brother. He tried fighting us a lot. But when excuses like if only they just let me have my way were about all he could say, we all let him have it about how that's not how the world works. He tried getting help from our mother. But she refused to look at him. He started huffing and acting like he was hyperventilating, then intentionally fell to the floor. It's not the first time he's done this. My aunt just told him to stop milking it and get up. He screamed at her that we were all ruining his life. And he wishes we were all dead. My parents were horrified. My brother refused to get up off the floor and kept breathing heavily to pretend to have some sort of attack. So everyone just left him laying there while they each said their piece about why they were there to him. He screamed at random a few times, but didn't move from where he'd laid down. Eventually everyone started leaving. And my parents had to actually drag my brother back to his room because he refused to get up off the floor. He's not used to people having no sympathy for him. Especially from our parents. This is gonna be a long uphill battle. My aunt has offered to chip in for therapy, and my parents have taken her up on it. Let's hope therapy does my brother some good. Edit. Context. Some have been asking what happened with my brother's birthday rampage. Well, to put it simply, he didn't get a PS5, so he went mental with a chair and destroyed whatever he could with it. Which was finally the breaking point for my parents and they grounded him severely. If y'all want any more details on what happened, just look at my prior posts. Update 1. It's been a few months since the family intervention, and I wanted to give an update on how things have been going with my brother and parents. The therapy sessions for my brother started off rocky, to say the least. He refused to participate at first, throwing tantrums and storming out of the therapist's office multiple times. My parents were at their wits' end, but the therapist assured them this was normal for someone like my brother who had never faced real consequences before. After about a month, something seemed to click. My brother started actually engaging in the sessions, though he was still resistant. The therapist suggested a reward system for good behavior, but with a twist. My brother had to earn back his privileges and possessions through consistent positive actions and attitude. At home, my parents stuck to their guns, which honestly surprised me. They implemented a strict routine and chore schedule for my brother. At first, he fought against it tooth and nail. There were screaming matches, broken dishes, and even a few attempts to run away. But my parents held firm, and slowly, very slowly, my brother started to adapt. One day, I got a call from my mom. She was in tears, but for once, they were happy tears. My brother had completed all his chores for the week without being asked and had even helped her carry in groceries without expecting a reward. It was a small step, but a significant one. The real test came during a family dinner about 2 months ago. My aunt, the same one who had been so vocal during the intervention, was visiting. As we sat down to eat, my brother actually asked if he could help set the table. The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. My aunt praised him, and for the first time in years, I saw my brother genuinely smile at a compliment instead of just expecting it. Of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. There have been setbacks. Last month, my brother had a meltdown when he wasn't allowed to stay up late on a school night. He broke a lamp and yelled that we all hated him. But instead of caving, my parents calmly enforced the consequences they had established with his therapist. To everyone's surprise, my brother actually apologized the next day, something I had never heard him do before. The most recent development happened just last week. My brother's school called my parents for a meeting. Apparently, there had been an incident in class where another student was struggling with a math problem. Instead of making fun of them or causing a disruption like he might have in the past, my brother actually offered to help. The teacher was so impressed by his patience and kindness that she wanted to let my parents know. When my parents told me about this, I could hear the pride in their voices. It was a strange feeling, being proud of my brother. For so long, he had been the source of stress and resentment in our family. But now, seeing him make these changes, I felt a glimmer of hope. Don't get me wrong, we still have a long way to go. My brother still has his moments, and years of bad habits won't disappear overnight. But for the first time in a long time, it feels like we're moving in the right direction as a family. I've even started spending more time at my parents' house, something I never thought I'd do willingly. Last weekend, my brother and I actually played a video game together without any arguments or tantrums. It was nice. As I write this, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. There's still a lot of healing to be done, both for my brother and for our family as a whole. But for the first time in years, it feels like that healing might actually be possible.